Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and a few interesting topics to run through today, especially regarding the weapon meta, not just in the professional scene, but also in league play, because the question comes back to league play these last several days. They said they fixed a couple of things. Actually, they said they fixed one thing in the game, which was the scoreboard thing, and then that actually wasn't fixed. But many other issues right now, you could argue, within the league play system, which is kind of frustrating me as a player, but also the rotation, the weapon meta in the professional scene has also been somewhat questionable to a number of players. We'll talk about Formal's thoughts on the AK-74U here in just a couple of seconds. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's get into things then. Wanted to start off with some interesting challenges stuff. As Defrag says, yet to see any pros take over in challenges. Pretty interesting question mark. I mean, we've seen these last few days the likes of Methods, right, stepping into, for example, the North American challenger scene, and having some, well, obviously didn't qualify for the elite, but looked decent in these maps, but not exactly anything spectacular. And you've got to say, right, some of these amateur players are right there, ready to get into the Pro League. And when are some of these pro teams going to make the leap, right? We've heard these rumours these last couple of days that some of the pro teams are bringing on some of these top amateurs, either as substitutes or as potential starting players. I mean, when are these going to get announced? Maybe in the coming days before Stage 2 does begin, I would imagine. And as Zero says right here, to touch on this, I genuinely came back into challenges. Of course, I'm having a difficult situation with the Ravens right now, thinking I was just going to hop into a top 3 team, just going to dominate these falls, but instead, it's completely the opposite, a totally different ball game. No joke though, I'm liking how every single match is competitive. It's always a battle. AMs are unreal these days, so definitely plenty of talent down there. And as you can see right here, Havoc, of course, free agent for challenges, so his team didn't have the best time, clearly, and well, you've got to ask the question about the Mutineers right now, the fact that they haven't had the best stage. Havoc was clearly a key piece of their success last season, so, is Havoc ever going to get his chance back in the Mutineers lineup if it still doesn't go to plan? Certainly right now, it seems like their fundamentals are not there, and so maybe Havoc helps that, maybe he doesn't help that. That's a question, I suppose, for the management over there. Maybe an opportunity for another team to pick him up or to trade him sometime later in the season. Center says it as well, free agent for challengers. Thought this is funny from TJ, because of course Methods right now also being in the challenger scene after being dropped for Inside. Pretty crazy scenes, that one. He says, like, you guys were nasty in World War II together, went from bottom barrel watch to Pro League players within months. Ziddy MVP. I think they played together on like Next Threat or something was the name of the team right at the start of World War II. So yeah, maybe these guys can run it back. But yeah, Doug free agent and challengers, he's definitely going to have to make a run. And as ProLoot says right here, Hydra is the GOAT, right? So I think ProLoot's been playing with Hydra and some of the other guys in the New York Subliners Academy squad, and clearly they think Hydra is the truth. And that's going to be really exciting, right? Who really knows what's going to happen here going forward with the Subliners, because their team has clearly been so good. But Merg was making a very interesting point, I think, in some of the other guys from the Hardpoints podcast, the idea that, look, if Hydra is going to be your player that can potentially win you a championship, you've got to try him in now. Even though the team's looking good, is that team going to be a championship winner? You look at that lineup, the Subliners lineup, they had a great season, of course, for Stage 1, but at the end of the day, is that lineup going to be one that takes down a championship? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but does Clayster think that? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but I would say that necessarily that lineup, when you look at some of the other talent in the league, does it have the firepower to consistently get over the line at the top level? I'm not sure that it does, right? And if that is the case, surely you have to think about trying Hydra now in the starting lineup, because otherwise, let's say you leave it to Stage 2, Stage 3, and you figure out, okay, like we've got top 5 here, we've got top 4 with the other one, we're not quite getting there. Now we've got to try Hydra out and maybe try and bring him in to actually win the thing, but maybe it's a little bit too little too late and you don't quite get the practice time, and if it doesn't work out with Hydra, then you can make some other options as well. So I don't know, it's an interesting situation. You don't really necessarily want to be making a change after going top 3 in an event, but at the same time, do you want to try out Hydra as quickly as possible so you don't miss the opportunity to actually build a dominant force potentially, as well as Clayster is prone to do. So let's talk about the meta real quick. This clip came out a couple of days ago from Formal Stream. They were playing up against the Atlanta FaZe, and as you can see, there's been certainly some frustration from a number of the AR players, Octane being one of them. We'll have a look at that in a second. And we talked about a couple of days ago actually that, okay, the XM4 is gone, but the 74U is basically just exactly as it was. And as you can see right here, Simp, obviously one of the best SMG players in the game, there's no doubt about that, but the muzzle brake was the attachment that got removed, and everyone was saying a couple of days ago, okay, hang on a second, it's only like a 4% recoil reduction, doesn't really do too much, it's only going to take a couple of days for pros to adapt and pull down a little bit more on the stick, and as you can see right here, you're like absolutely beaming across the map, no muzzle brake on the weapon, to my understanding, 4 attachments on it only, and yeah, Formal's could just get absolutely blasted across the map by the 74U. Nothing you can do. I thought he died to another Krig or something. I thought he died to like a QBZ that's managed to hit like 4 headshots, but yeah, that was honestly pretty incredible stuff.
You're on the back, dude. I'm pitching small. One's back there, Simp. Alright. 4 attachments, bro. What the f was that?
I'm pulling green. I have a backlight. Do you guys want
But despite the 74U doing all this madness across the map, the meta these last couple of days in scrims has actually been relatively good, I think. We've had a couple of 74Us, we've had generally a QBZ, then we've generally had a Krig, and it actually makes for a relatively decent meta. I'm not sure it's going to last, right? Because we saw this with the XM4 when that finally came in after the AK-47 got banned. Then we had a situation where it was an XM4, a Krig, and a couple of 74Us. Before long, we found ourselves playing Checkmate Control with 7 or 6, 7 XM4s on the map at any one time. Hopefully that won't happen with the QBZ. It's definitely a concern. The European amateurs certainly think that over time the pros are going to figure out the QBZ actually is pretty damn good. Maybe it has to go as well. But maybe the pros finally won't get rid of the QBZ. Maybe they'll finally come to their senses and realize actually the issue here might be the attachments. The fact that we allow these weapons to be stacked with 7 attachments. Maybe we should just get rid of a couple of those and force players not to be able to use that. Therefore it might make things more balanced. But as you can see right here, even with just 4 attachments, the 74U is still very strong at the present time. This is what Octane was talking about a few days ago. AK gone, M4 gone, and the subs are like, okay, what attachment should I take off? That's because subs don't actually want to run a sub. They want to be able to chow everything, and we kind of saw that in that clip right there. But the XM4 being gone will make it harder to be a good AR, which is kind of good, I suppose. They were both busted, and this is what Slasher and Co had to talk about at the time. But as we see, this meta very recently has been pretty interesting. We've seen, of course, Dashy looking pretty good with a QBZ. It's an interesting looking gun. It's kind of an ugly looking thing, but it seems to get the job done, like the Type 25 from Black Ops 2. If you guys played that game all the way back in the day, you certainly missed out if you didn't. And then, of course, as Envoy is using right here, the 74U, still very solid indeed. However, a few of you guys have been asking me these last few days, what's going on with League Play, right? Because in League Play, the 74U is certainly still used, but there's another weapon which has really come into the meta as of late, and that is, of course, the LC10. If you play much League Play, you'll probably have run into this weapon a lot. Finally, I got to the tier of my battle pass to unlock it last night, so I think there's kind of, it's like an unwritten gentleman's agreement kind of in League Play, where if someone uses it on the other team, then it's kind of free game to pull it out. But generally at the start of the game, you at least hope that you're going to see 74Us and meta weapons, but then you get a few minutes into League Play, and someone pulls out the LC10, and all of a sudden the lobby is just everyone's using the LC10. Really interesting gun, and a few of you guys have been talking, like, why don't the pros use this? Generally, the pros don't tend to use DLC weapons. I think when it's happened in the past where a DLC weapon has come in, that's come into the meta, it's very often been GA'd. I mean, I remember the ITRA, especially in World War II, it was basically a 4-round burst gun like the M8 from Black Ops 2, for example. That came in for a while. The pros were using it for a couple of days before realizing, okay, this thing is just way too good. We're not going to bother using it. So kind of just using the weapons that ship with the game. Generally, they don't tend to go into the DLC stuff. But the DLC maps are allowed, so there is a question about that. But the LC10, I don't really understand the thing. I mean, as you can see right here, this on Reddit, POV, you are about to ruin League Play by pulling this thing out. This gun is so good. I don't really understand how they coded it. For some reason, it just like, did they just not code the recoil in? It just beams all the way across the map every single time. The pros, as I say, aren't going to be using this in competitive play. The Farah also came into the game, and some people thought the Farah was quite good, but compared to the XM4 that people are still using in League Play, it's not really anywhere close, right? But the LC10 right now, it's a very frustrating factor with League Play. And there's a few other things in League Play as well which are really frustrating people. We saw a couple of days ago, they said they fixed the scoreboard issue, which in fact they clearly did not. And that was the only thing they tried to change about League Play. It's really frustrating, right? Because the pros game, the game that the pros play has developed and evolved so much. They now play on Apocalypse. They're now not using, of course, the XM4 anymore. The QBZ's being used. And yeah, so many things are changing so quickly in the professional scene that now League Play that was released over a month ago is completely different to what the pros are actually playing at the present day, right? Like, so many things have changed. I mean, the fact that, okay, the XM4, the preset classes are effectively wrong because they don't use the XM4 anymore. The LC10's now here. Apocalypse isn't, of course, in the rule set as of yet. And yeah, as you can see, the Scump uses right here. This is kind of where maybe some of the LC10 stuff came from. I think it was using it on stream. He wallbangs this guy right through Apocalypse right here, straight through this. I think a lot of people saw this and thought, okay, damn, the LC10, it's really good. Whoever was watching the stream and started to pull it out in League Play, and you pretty much see it everywhere nowadays, and it is very frustrating indeed to deal with. Simp actually did this video as well, the best pro LC10 class setup. So yeah, seems like a lot of people think the LC10 is really good, and it certainly is, right? But the pros aren't using it in competitive play, but in League Play, it's a weapon meta which you could argue is kind of ruining the game at the present time, and also ruining the game, you could argue, is exactly how these map sets tend to play out. I'm not sure if you guys experienced this as well. For quite a while, when League Play first came out, for probably the first 2-3 weeks of League Play, really up until the last week or so, Checkmate Control was like the only map I would ever get. I was just ridiculous. We'd just hop in to try and play some league play, and every other game it would be like you'd get a Checkmate Control, then you'd get to play another map, then it was Checkmate Control again, then maybe you'd go to another map. We barely ever got Raid Hardpoint, and finally we've been getting it a couple of times recently. It seems that maybe it's somewhat more randomized as of late, but one of the real frustrations is not being able to choose the game mode you play. Like, I would much prefer just to have a respawn mode in league play and a search and destroy mode. I want to go through and, okay, Control's pretty good, Hardpoint is fantastic every map you play it on. Like, that's what I would love to play in league play, but instead I have to go through search and destroy. I'm pretty sure we played like 5 search and destroys out of maybe 7 maps yesterday. It was just tragic. As you can see what Crone's talking about right here, you know, I did 10 or 11 search and destroys in a row on league play, really testing me like this. Just, you know, I had enough at like 5. Yeah, my time is done. Like, there's no way I'm playing that any longer. So this is one of the real issues to me. It's honestly a massive turn off. Like, you hop onto the game, you want to play some good competitive game modes, and there's so many issues with league play outside of that. The fact that yeah, it's not really about how good you are, it's just about how much you play. That's also a bit of an issue as well. And the LC10 now coming into the meta, kind of ruining things. I want to just use a normal weapon, but given all the LC10s are all over the place, I hadn't even unlocked it until yesterday, which is honestly kind of frustrating to deal with. And then you've got the fact I'm playing Miami Search and Destroy every other game nowadays. Supposedly, it's yeah, it's very frustrating to deal with. I did also thought this was pretty interesting from No Context CDL, asking about picking 3 guns from COD history to make the most balanced weapon meta ever. And he mentions the Modern Warfare 3 MP7, the Black Ops 4 ICR, the Infinite Warfare OSA, which is a really interesting combination of weapons. Obviously, it's really tough to say how things will go across games, but maybe the MSMC for Black Ops 2 I thought was pretty well balanced. I mean, this is a decent one as well. The IWK bar and the Black Ops 4 ICR, that's kind of an interesting idea. I'm not really sure the ICR will be able to compete with the K bar. Honestly, I'll just bring back the NV4, to be honest. The NV4 for my W, the K bar for my W, they were pretty well balanced anyway, and then chuck the MSMC in there. Honestly, Infinite Warfare's meta was pretty good towards the end. So maybe Infinite Warfare gets a decent shot, especially given it was a 4v4 game. And just to finish off with this final clip right here from Scump, I actually didn't realise you could wallbang this either. And well, clearly Scump didn't. This map's been out since 2012. I did not know you could do this. As you can see here, and I mean, he actually wallbangs the entire wall and gets straight through that piece of glass over at Kitchen right here. This might be something you guys want to try out in league play, as to take someone down through this wall. Could be crucial in a 1v1 or something. Some guys try to shoulder pick this, you get a couple of shots in, you wallbang him straight through, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, I thought I'd mention it for you guys if you'd like to try and, well, get a nice couple of montage clips like this, I suppose, in league play or whatever else you might happen to be playing. But intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm that you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. And I've got the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.